How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today I bring you this interesting story from pluralist.com about a Whiteness Studies professor who says that white people who treat all races equally are dangerous. Now, I've kind of skimmed through this article. I've not really read it, so I'm going to give you a pretty honest reaction as I read it with you guys. But this right here, I can tell you straight from the beginning, this is not something that is uncommon in academia today, but I want to highlight it so you understand what we're dealing with right now. And let's get into the article. And the article reads, I like to be a little less white, which means a little less oppressive. So, I mean, is white the equivalent to being oppressive? Is being white the equivalent to being oppressive? I'm not really sure, but let's keep going. A guest lecturer at Boston University said last month that white people who judge others as individuals instead of by their skin color are dangerous, according to a report in the College Fix. Now, I was always taught as a youngin that it was a guy back in the 50s and 60s that said, judge not by the color of their skin, but by the content of the character. I forgot who that was, but if y'all know, let me know in the box. This lady here apparently didn't hear that same story I heard. Maybe she didn't get the memo, but let's keep going. The lecture entitled, What Does It Mean to Be White? Was given by University of Washington professor Robin DiAngelo, a white woman. DiAngelo, who, according to her website, specializes in whiteness studies. Pause right here. What is whiteness studies? Look, okay. If your child or if you as a young person go to college and you study whiteness studies, like what's the purpose in doing that? Is it a required class? What's really going on? But let's keep going. DiAngelo, who according to a website specializes in whiteness studies, added that people who say they've been taught to treat everyone the same deny black people their reality. Oh, is that right? So Miss White Lady gets to have a class where she says what is the right thing to do is somehow harmful to me. So doing the right thing is harmful to me. That's interesting, but let's keep going again. Let's pass that crazy video from a little while ago. If you are being honest, you've probably said it. She said of being taught to treat everyone the same. Your parents could lecture you to do it, but if you don't do it, you can't do it. There is no human objectivity. Okay. DiAngelo said that when she hears people say they are colorblind, they're revealing their own ignorance. This person doesn't understand basic socialization, she said. This person doesn't understand culture. This person is not self-aware. Okay, let's see where we're going. Quote, and I need to give a heads up to the white people in the room, DiAngelo said. When people of color hear us say this, they're generally not thinking, all right, I'm talking to a woke white person right now. Usually some version of eye rolling is going on and the wall is going up. Oh, so you're just going to stereotype black folks and just eye rolling and not understanding what's going on? I mean, I thought you were the anti-racist here. What's really going on? I don't understand what you're getting at here. You know, let's go back a little bit. You know, I don't want people to see me as my race. I'm more than my race. So don't just pigeonhole me into that little box. But let's keep going. My friend Erin Trent Johnson, she says, when I hear a white person say this, what I'm thinking is this is a dangerous white person. So a white person saying that they're colorblind and they're trying to be your friend and they're trying to be nice, that's dangerous. All right. This is a white person who is going to need to deny my reality, DiAngelo continued. What reality is that? DiAngelo's remarks seem diametrically opposed to the teachings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a Boston University graduate who famously hoped his children would one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I mean, oh, that's who that was. MLK. Yeah, I almost forgot. Who would have known that that quote is known by so many people? It's kind of amazing that this white lady right here just totally missed that whole thing, but let's keep going. For DiAngelo, however, racial identity is not a trait that should be transcended. Quote, I want to be clear that as I stand up here with authority and the voice on this topic, I'm reinforcing whiteness and the centrality of the white view. I mean, what are you really? Are you Adolf Hitler with this whole Aryan master race thing? Let's keep going. She said, admitting to her own limitations as a white person, I like to be a little less white, which means a little less oppressive, oblivious, defensive, ignorant, and arrogant. It's a lot of self-flagellation going on here. I mean, she may be a type person to beat her own self up in the mirror just for being white. To hate yourself for being white, to say all these things about white and have them be negative. Why? Why can't you just be a human being and live properly rather than saying, I don't want to be associated with this thing called whiteness, which is all bad? I mean, is it an act or is it a real thing from this lady? I don't really know. DiAngelo said the traditional definition of racism that, quote, an individual who consciously does not like people based on race and is intentionally mean to them, unquote, actually works as a way to protect real racism. The real threat, according to DiAngelo, is a systemic racism in the media, the family, religion, education, economics, language, and the criminal justice system. Well, you're talking about education. Is that you, Mr. DiAngelo? I mean, it apparently is. You're talking about all this white this, white that, white's bad, white's this, and then you're talking about black folks. Oh, they don't like this and they don't like this. Aren't you doing exactly what you're saying is the problem? And if you're talking about in the media and all this and that, who is racism against? Is it against me? Or is it against other people? Or is the racism that's there different than what you may imagine? Because you may imagine it being anti-black and pro-white. It could be the other way around, or it could be about a certain kind of ideology, liberalism to be exact, that must be pushed. And if you are not for it, you get attacked in the racial way. If you're not a liberal and you're a white person, that means you're Adolf Hitler. If you're not a liberal and you're a black person, that means that you're Uncle Tom and the Coon and the Sellout and the Buck Dance, all this, that, and the third. So if that is in the media, then we agree. But if that's how much you're talking about, then I don't even know where you're going because you're not living in reality. But let's keep going. DiAngelo also tackled feminism during a lecture, claiming the country is currently filled with rampant sexism. She noted that the majority of politicians, directors, and police officers are male, and said it was sexist to imply males just happen to be more inclined to enjoy those fields of work. Why is that sexist? It's not sexist to say that. 90% of nurses are female. So is that sexism right there? Maybe women are better at being nurses than men. Maybe men are better at being police officers than women. Maybe men have more of an interest in being police officers, firefighter, military than women do. What's wrong with that? Men and women are different. Maybe Mr. DiAngelo does not believe that we're different, that men can have babies and women can too, and, just weird stuff. But let's keep going. Quote, we live in the patriarchy, she said, pointing to her own husband as an example of how men benefit from the system. That's hilarious. Sir, DiAngelo's husband, what are you doing? Is that your last name, DiAngelo, or is that her last name? It should keep on but I don't even want to go down that road. Let's keep going. DiAngelo, who authored the book White Fragility, Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism. That's probably a bestseller right there on Amazon, huh? Concluded her lecture by encouraging the audience to view people in terms of race, not as individuals. Wow. So you're advocating racism. That's racism right there. If you look at me just because I'm a black person, nothing else, not me, not Anthony, like you don't get to know Anthony, you get to know just me. And because I'm black, that means that I must be the exact same as every other black person. Okay, according to the white lady standards, and the same thing about white people, they got to be the same as Miss DiAngelo according to her standards. But who died and made her the grand arbiter of what was and was not appropriate to do based upon your particular race? But let's keep going and wrap it on up with a nice bow on the top. While at one time DiAngelo's lecture may have seemed radical, her view has increasingly become more mainstream among those on the progressive left. An insistence on categorizing individuals according to race has become particularly prevalent on college campuses. That's correct, where schools have allowed racial segregation in dorms and classrooms in service of wokeness. Not only allowed it, see, that's a key word you got to kind of put in context. Forced. Okay, I've had people tell me on a call-in show, and I've watched videos of people talking about their experience. They say once they go to college, they're put into certain places based on their race. Shout out to Lauren Chin, aka Roman Millennial. She was talking about how she went to college in California, and because she has an Asian last name, they put her on the floor with other Asians, on the dorm floor. But why should that be the case? It should be kind of a random thing, or you should be able to choose where you want to go. Now, if you choose to be amongst your own particular race, then that's one thing. But if the college endorses it, enforces it, that's something different. Allow these kids to have choice. But that's pretty much the end of that article right there. I mean, as I close, I just want to say this. This ain't nothing really new. This is pretty much how it's going right now in academia. You got these woke white ladies talking crazy. I think it's really just a way for them to get some kind of recognition and revenue and to sell books. It ain't really a real thing. I mean, I had to kind of look at this website and see if it was a fake website or not, because a lot of this stuff is fake. Not necessarily just these articles, but people like this. They're not really real. They do these things to kind of carve a niche for themselves in society. But at the same time, they're influencing very young people who really don't know one way or the other. You got 17, 18-year-olds straight out of high school who have not really been exposed to this kind of thing before, and they kind of feel guilty a little bit about being white, or they may have strong feelings about their particular race. And she comes along and kind of affirms what they were starting to believe. So that's not a good thing to have. So that's pretty much all I got for it. What say you? Do you think that this lady was correct? You should not judge people based on their individuality, their personality, who they are as a person. Judge them on race instead. If you think that way, please explain to me why in the comments below. I find it very hard to believe that somebody who is not a racist would judge others based on race rather than the individual personality, their individuality. But whatever your comments are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.